The western white pine is also substantially more resilient to the effects of climate change and drought, in contrast to the trees that have grown in its stead.
Western white pine adapted to the broadest breadth of environments. So it kind of took in all the different disturbances and said, okay, I can handle that, and I am going to be able to adapt to all of them. And so basically, as we go into climate change, it is well suited to adapt to whatever kind of climate that we might have and the different weather patterns.
White pine has a much better ability to withstand droughty conditions. So thinking future climate kind of stuff, it's far more drought tolerant than grand fir, western hemlock, western red cedar on the same sites. So it's going to have much higher probability of actually having resistance and resilience to just long-term climate kind of disturbance over time.
Huckleberry. I am an ornithologist by training. I'm a biologist who studies birds. I started tree climbing in 1995, and I would take my friends. They'd come to me and say, hey David, you know, you're in the top of the forest, can I go with you? Canopy Watch is a nonprofit. Okay. We raise money through donations that allow us to guide more people on tree climbs. And then we also guide scientists. Scientists need to study life at the top of the forest, not just at the bottom of the forest. And that's another one of our missions, is to help the evolution of science to protect the forests.
For those who work in the timber industry, protecting the forest is about preserving a historic livelihood and a way of life.
I think that if you were to talk to just about any logger that works in the woods or forester, that half the reason that they chose that job is they like the outdoors, they appreciate nature and the woods, and they've found a way to make a living, however difficult it might be. I don't think they'd trade it for anything. They like working out here, and they want to do the right thing. They want to do what's good for the ground.
And tell me, how do you feel about your line of work? Do you like it?
Oh, I love it. Wouldn't trade it for the world.
What's so fun about it?
Just being in the woods, I guess. I don't know, I've always done it. Love being out here. Love the hours. Don't see nobody. It's perfect.
There's not a lot of white pine that's cut anymore, and so the amount of white pine that we run through our mill might be 6 to 7 million feet of logs a year, which really isn't a lot when you think about that. You know, we might cut 650 million feet of logs total through our company. So it's a small part of what we do. Our customers would like more. When we're on the federal jobs, it's the preferred tree to leave when we're doing a logging job because it does have a better survival rate. We'd love to see more white pine growing and become mature to where we could utilize it for lumber. I think that there are people that are still resistant because, you know, it costs a lot of money to plant trees in the ground, and, you know, if 30% of them die, that's a financial hardship for you. So there are areas or some landowners that don't want to plant white pine. Root disease has always been here. When we do harvesting in areas that you can tell has root disease, you can plant species then that are not susceptible to that. White pine is good for that. Is it a big concern? No, but it is something that forest managers have to think about all the time when we're out managing the forest.
You come to one of these rallies and you see the spirit and the enthusiasm that's involved.
Logging is capable of conjuring up a range of emotions. Over the years, protests for and against cutting down trees have cropped up as personal beliefs have come into conflict with business interests, forest policy, advocacy, and capitalism. But the truth is, in our present society, we need wood, and we like it too.
The more we plant genetically improved trees that are faster growing and they have good other properties, the less landowners will be compelled to harvest natural stands. If we produce trees as a crop, then we don't have to go into those old growth stands to produce the wood. We're not weaned of wood. You look at my house, you look at other people's houses, we have wood shingles, we have wood decks, we have wood interior. We have not weaned ourselves from wood. So if we're going to keep doing that, using wood, we need to grow it.
If you're building houses out of steel, I mean, you're tearing up the earth with digging pits to get your minerals to make the steel. So really, logging, if you compare it to mining, is certainly a lot less difficult on the ground.
White pine was always worth at least twice, if not more, of the other species. It was very valued. You can look out across the mountainside and you can pick out a white pine like nothing. It looks just like steps on a ladder. Those whorls of branches just go up, and in between that is no knots. You have all clear spacings in between. So if you're looking at door and window blanks, kick panels, all of the different parts that go into a window casing and all, and you're looking for clear wood, that's what you're going to be looking for.
It's a very uniform species. The logs are reasonably straight. There's not as much taper from end to end as some species. So when we run white pine through our sawmill, it's very uniform. It's easier to handle. It goes through the saws very well. It's very weather resistant. It takes stain and paint very well, and it withstands weather well. I wish there was more of it out there to cut.
One of the things that this inland forest here, I feel we've always been blessed with that. You go west and you've got Douglas fir, or you've got hemlock. You go in the southeast, you have some plantation pine. Out here, we've got several different species of fir. We've got 3 species of pine. We've got spruce. We've got cedar. We've got all kinds of different species. So no matter what happens with the weather, if a certain insect comes through, a certain disease, you've always got something else to fall back on.
One fork of it could be dead. Can we get a tree boat in any of those? Maybe this one off to the left?
Maybe that one off to the left certainly looks like it's got a good angle. Can't really tell how alive it is, so that'll be something we'll inspect when we're up there.
We came out here and found this tree and identified it. It looked like it was not only huge, but it was going to be climbable. Not all of the old trees are climbable for a lot of reasons. They might have dead tops, dead branches, disease. And we found this tree. It was suitable, it's glorious, and it took 3 people an entire day to pioneer this tree and climb it and get ready for us to be up here.
Actually, I'm terrible.
We measured it with a tape measure. It took 2 measurements, one from near the top to the top and one from near the top to the bottom, and we came up with 179.85 feet.
As far as challenging goes, this tree is challenging.
The thing is that not everybody can take or undertake this climb. It's not easy. It's not even easy for professional tree climbers. But by filming our story and sharing our story, everybody can get a feel for how rigorous it is and how beautiful it is at the top of this forest. And that's my goal, is to be able to share a story with the largest audience possible and help more people appreciate the beauty of these trees.
Why should people care about white pines? Why do we care if they just all disappear?
We need to know the lessons of the old trees if we ever want to be successful at managing the young forests. If we don't understand that biology, it makes us less capable managers of the new forests. And we need to have these living specimens. Once they're gone, we lose that history. This tree is at least 300 years old. It could be as old as 350. This tree was here before the settlers. It saw the Native Americans walking through the forest, living their lives. It was here when the grizzly bears and the elk were roaming the landscape. It saw the arrival of the Europeans. Actually, it saw the surrounding forest get logged, and it survived that. I wonder how that felt to be an old tree and see the other trees get logged. This tree has seen everything that's gone through here. It's seen massive wildfires. Everything that has come to this continent has passed by or through or over this forest. And this tree has seen it all, and it's still here.
Western white pine has been here since time immemorial. The bark sturgeon-nosed canoe has been here since time immemorial. And then also the local tribal groups, especially even with their marriage patterns and movement patterns and harvest patterns, that's been here since time immemorial as well. When I'm harvesting the material, I actually don't see borders. So when I cross the 49th parallel to get into British Columbia, if I cross the state line to get from Washington State to North Idaho, to me those are imaginary lines. So psychologically, I don't see those lines. I learned early on that my obsessive compulsive to build this perfect canoe, as more years go on, that's out the door. You just go with the flow. So if we fell the tree and it hits another tree and bruises a little bit, gets a little crack in it, we just work with it. That's what we do. Just like we as people, we all have bruises, we all have a little bit of things that we've gone through, and we still work with it in a positive way to get to somewhere.
There's something that's important to humans, and it's called a sense of place. The ability of a person to have a day picking huckleberries and enjoying the woods and the forest. For the person to be able to sit and maybe meditate with quietness. People need to understand the role of white pine so that they can understand why it's important and why they need it to be able to experience those things in the forest and to have that sense of place. So it be a benefit to our own society and individuals if we spent the time to learn about these forests and the role of white pine.
There's something majestic about it. There's something spiritual about it, that these trees they were there for 300, 500 years and still going. I mean, there's something very special about that.
If you see a big white pine tree like this, it's hard not to be impressed. And I'd love to see them again. I'd love to show the grandkids. And if I can find some out in the wild still left that are that big, I'm going to take them to it.
It's been a year since we first climbed the white pine, and we're finally wrapping up this project. So I emailed David to find out if the tree we climbed was a champion tree of Idaho. And here is what he said. There are probably other larger trees out there, but as of today, it's the only one we know of.
To make a legitimate submission, we'd have to do more intensive searching, starting with LiDAR satellite imagery of northern Idaho, before we could say if this tree is a likely champion. But we can say that, as of today, it's the largest white pine we know of in Idaho. That's the truth.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore and Bettis family legacy of building the great state of Idaho, by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by the Idaho Public Television Endowment. To find more information about these shows, Visit us at idahoptv.org.